What we are going to cover today in the proposal strategy is understanding our position or the organization's position in the entire sales cycle. What we have done, where do we stand in the sales cycle, and our entire proposal strategy will depend on that. So, assessing your position in the sales cycle and deciding your strategy based on your situation or your position in the sales cycle will decide your strategy. Next, we will see the three core areas which drive, or the three core drivers for a winning or persuasive proposal, and they are nothing but the customer, the capability of the organization, and the competition. So we will analyze that how depending on these three drivers the strategy is has to be made, or has to be we strategically position our proposal. Next, what we will decide look at is will be the issues, which are nothing but the requirements in a sense, obviously for which, because of which the customer wants to procure your services or solution. The motivators, what is that going to motivate the customer to buy from you. And the hot buttons, what are those real issues which are actually keeping the customer awake in the night and he wants to address them through the service or the solution. And then definitely looking into the features, advantages, and the benefits of your solution. And then finally developing the winning strategy. How do we win a proposal? How do we, all these things what we have done, what the assessing our position, the three C's, the issues, motivators, hot buttons, features, and advantages. How do we put them together to develop a winning strategy? And the output of the winning strategy, that is basically what we come out, what comes out of the proposal strategy, we document that, and that document serves as a input to the proposal development. So our proposal development will be driven by the output of the proposal strategy. And then we will definitely look into some of the sample questions. So moving to the next slide. But before moving to the next slide, let us understand what exactly is a strategy. Because strategy is something which is a little confused when we talk about strategy. Purely saying strategy is a plan or a method for achieving a goal. And typically, what happens is we confuse between strategy and tactics. Basically, a strategy in its purest sense is nothing but the pre engagement position. And the tactics are basically the actions we take to implement the strategy. So you require both the strategy and the tactics to win. And a proposal strategy is nothing but a plan to write a persuasive and winning proposal. And this proposal strategy is basically a subset of the entire capture strategy. We discussed the capture strategy when we were talking about the qualification, and also during the business development life cycle. So the proposal strategy is actually a subset of the capture strategy. The proposal strategy starts getting developing. You start developing the proposal strategy even during the capture phase. Only the tactical aspects of the implementation, they differ. So let us move into the next slide, which is basically accessing the position. Now, before you start your strategy, you start strategizing on your proposal, how the proposal is going to develop. You have to understand, or you have to evaluate where exactly do you stand. That is, what is your current sales situation. Now, what is the current, how can you define what is your current sales situation? It will depend on whether you have been involved in the capture phase. Do you actually know the customer, or this you have started writing the proposal, or the proposal has come to you after this RFP was published, and you had no sense of what exactly this is, you do not have any relationship with the customer, that will decide your current sales situation. And depending on your current sales situation, you have to take a decision of how you are going to strategize your proposal. Because if you had been involved in the capture phase, you will be knowing what exactly is the customer's expectation. Now if you know the customer's expectation, in that case your positioning will be different. Whereas if this customer is new to you, but you have already done similar for some other customer, you will have a different situation. You know that this is specifically the requirement for this specific set of customer of for this particular customer, but there may be any other specific requirement for also. Now that is something going to be different from the first situation. So your strategy will always depend on how what your current sales situation is. The next thing you need to know is, where does your competition stand? Suppose in the case you are bidding for an opportunity in which the incumbent vendor is also going to be your competitor. In that case your situation is different, because the incumbent vendor has got a relationship with the customer, knows the problem domain better than you. You may have worked on a similar problem domain for the other for other customers in the same industry vertical, but this incumbent vendor knows the specific challenges or the constraints within this particular customer. And new this may be a new opportunity which is coming, or this may be a renewal of a existing contract this incumbent vendor is right now executing for the customer. So here your strategy is going to be different. Here you are going to see that why is the customer looking out for a new vendor when it has got a incumbent vendor, and there can be different reasons for it. It can be that the incumbent vendor is not able to meet the customer's expectations. It can be the customer's way of looking at of bringing in competition within his organization, so that the incumbent vendor also tries to be competitive and does not try to be predominantly ruling over, or trying to provide only one way to the customer. There can be other reasons also. The incumbent vendor does not have the capability to scale to which the customer expects the new requirements need, or the new business objectives need. So depending, you have to also start expecting, you have to also analyze where does the competition stand. In case this is a new opportunity and you do not have any relationship with the customer, you have to see who are the competitors in the marketplace, who are likely to compete with you. Have you competed with them in any other bid? What were the outcomes of those competitions? Did they outgrow you? Did they win those bids? And what had been the reasons for because of which they were competitive against you? What are their solutions? So you need to do a market research, or you need to do a competitive research about your competitor, because your proposal strategy will have to you has to align with your competition also. The third thing what you need to know also is that what is the customer's perception about your organization. Now proposal, or the procurement entire decision, the decision of giving a win, or assigning giving a contract to a vendor, has got a lot to do about with the customer's perception about that vendor. It is not only about the cost or the solution, it is also about the customer's experience with the customer, or the customer's perception about the vendor. So you have to also evaluate what is the customer's perception about you. And this evaluation or this perception, you can evaluate this perception through different ways, also depending on your situation, your current sales situation. If the customer has, if you are suppose an incumbent vendor or incumbent vendor of the customer organization, then based on the relationship, how has the relationship grown over a period of time, what has been the satisfactory the customer satisfactory index or customer satisfaction index for you for the projects which you have been doing. Has the first thing is that if you are an incumbent vendor and the customer knows that you can meet those requirements, why did he go out for an RFP, or why did he go for a competitive bidding? He could have given it to you only just by knowing that you are competent enough to do that. So there, what is the reason why they have gone out for an RFP? If they have gone out for an RFP, what are they looking at the vendor? What is the expectation from the vendor? What is the expectation? What is their perception about you? Do they look at you as a very competent vendor but having some constraints in scalability? Do they look at you as a very competent vendor but very highly priced? Do they look at you as a vendor with some technology competence but not having the business domain expertise? So what is that perception about you? Because it is that perception which you may have to change, or even there may be a positive perception about you which you have to enhance in your proposal, so that you can win over the customer. So it is very important that you understand your customer's perception about your organization. And the same thing holds about the competitor also. That if there is a competitor, what is the customer's perception about the competitor? Do they think that they like many customers I have met in my entire proposal experience, proposal development experience and customer relationship experience, I have met many customers who feel that the top five companies are very arrogant. They do not want to listen to the customer. They feel that only what they know is the right way. So it's the like my way, or the my way and the highway, or the highway. So they have that approach. So they try to approach the second tier vendors or the contractors. But at that time, I have also seen customers who have some level of confidence on the second tier uh, vendors, but they also feel that the second tier vendors have a problem of scalability, have a problem of have bringing in a business consulting experience or a domain experience, or they are too stretched to handle new accounts or new things. So it is they also have the customer always has a perception. So what is the perception of the customer about your competition? And your competent can be the top 5 or the big leagues players, or their competitor can be the people below your size of the organization also. So you have to also understand that part of the customer's perception. And it is not only about you but also about your competition. So assessing your sales position actually gives you where you stand. So you get to know where exactly you stand, and then based on that, you start preparing your proposal strategy. Because to prepare a strategy, first thing you need to know, where am I, and where I have to go, and taking with me all the stakeholders in the ecosystem, the customer, the your organization, as well as the competition. So that is something which you need to check, and that is what you need to assess by assessing your sales position. So we move to the next, and the next one is basically the three C's. Now these three C's are the most important drivers for your proposal strategy. And these three C's are nothing but the customer, the capability, and the competition. And any clear and compelling strategy will be built only when we know about these three and their key drivers. We need to know the customer and their key drivers. We need to understand our organization's capability to deliver the solution. We need to understand the competition who are equally hungry to win the deal. So let us walk through each of these three fundamental drivers and see that how, if we analyze these three, they can help us to build a build the overall strategy. Now, the first thing to think about is the customer, because ultimately it is the customer needs or customer whom you are going to fulfill, whose needs you are going to fulfill through your proposal. It is the customer who has asked for the proposal, and it is the customer whose needs you are so the entire dealing is with the one to one relationship is between you and the customer. So the customer is the first element we need to analyze. Now, to understand the customer, the first thing we need to understand is about his organization. Now, why do we need to understand the organization? Because we need to understand what is the customer's organization right now. Because we may hear great things about the customer, we may have great we may hear about the great plans of the customer in the future, but what exactly is the current situation of the customer which is driving the customer to go for this procurement or to go for this opportunity, or because of which the customer wants to have this service or this solution. What are the key issues in their business as a whole, and what are the specific areas of operation which are actually involved in this particular initiative. Not only the customer as an organization as a whole, but what are the key issues of the business and what are the specific areas of operation. Now, is it the key issues of the business? Is it the top line growth? Is it the cost reduction or the cost control, which are the key issues at an organization at a whole, or for specific areas, whether it is for their customer relationship management, or whether it is for their production, or whether it is for their sales and marketing, or whether it is for their logistics and distribution. What area of operation and what specific issue at a business level, this is something we need to understand. We may get to know some of this if we have an existing relationship with the customer, if we are an incumbent vendor, or we have been talking to the customer, we have been involved in the capture phase. We can get to know some of this from the existing relationship, or maybe with some discussions with the customer. But it is always very helpful to do some research on the customer's organization, and this research can be their analyzing their financial reports, their annual reports, looking into their strategy, their future vision, and understanding where they are going. So basically doing some research on the customer's background. We also need to know what are during the customer, there are certain things like knowing the customer specific terms, like the customers may use you are coming from a business domain, and you use certain terminologies in your business domain, but within the customer's organization the same terms may be used in a different way, or maybe may have some different meanings or connotations. Now you need to familiarize yourself with those terms also, because there are times when you use a term of a industry, or if of a specific business, other business domain, or of another customer's domain, and the same thing may have a different meaning within this particular customer. So developing a understanding of the buzzwords or maybe the phrases which the customers team use, and incorporate them in your proposal, so that gives a feeling to the customer that you understand their organization or their business. The next thing is to understand what is this opportunity about, what is driving this particular opportunity, who is behind this, and what are they hoping to achieve, and what business benefits do they hope to realize out of it? Also, has the customer made any plans or has any plans of how this will be recognized and they will be quantified? Because unless you know these drivers, you will not be able to address their requirements, because the requirements stated may be only statements, or or maybe a intent, that we need this, we need to buy this, or we need to have this functionality. But why do they need this? Who needs that? Who is behind that? What do they want to achieve out of it? What business benefits are they going to realize out of it? And how will they know that whether they have met it or not, and how will they measure it? These are very important things which we need to understand from the customer, and these things need to be addressed in our proposal, because if we don't address them, the customer will not be able to evaluate and come to a conclusion that we, or you know this, you understand what exactly the customer needs, and you have a solution meeting their requirements. And there can be other factors also, like, is there any some compelling event that is driving them to need this? Like, there is a change in a government policy which needs them, or there is a change in a some business rules, or business rules, which is actually compelling them to have this requirement, to have this procure, to drive this procurement. And there may be a specific time scale within which they need to do that. Now, what also we can also have to, we also should try to know that if this was a requirement, then why did they start it now? Why are they going it for now? Is this requirement something which has come up now, or it was there for long, and but now it's now that they cannot any further live with it, so now they have to go for this change, or they have to have this new requirement? And also, if you can know that, what happens if they don't do it now? What is going to be the impact? What would be the impact of not doing it now? Because that is going to be a risk for them, and you need to bring out that risks also in your in your proposal. The third thing which we need to know is, understand, is basically their evaluation approach. How are they going to evaluate you? In most of the cases, in case of competitive bids, specifically when they are coming from the government, the evaluation criteria and the evaluation weightages are very clearly stated. But then also, it is very difficult to understand that, is this evaluation criteria only going to be the only criteria for selecting the vendor, or is there anything which is implicit or which is written between the lines to select a vendor? Now, understanding that evaluation criteria is very critical. There can, in case of commercial bids, or in case of bids which are outside the public sector or the government, there will be situations where the any evaluation, no evaluation criteria will be mentioned, only the requirements will be stated, or maybe a statement of work is provided, and you are asked to provide a proposal for that. In that case also, you need to know what is going to be their evaluation approach. And when the customers evaluate, specifically the evaluation is not done by one person or one authority. It is done by multiple teams which are brought from different functions within the organization. So you need to know about what is their evaluation process, who, and this you can know from their procurement, that is the procurement guy the only guy who is going to decide about buying it, or he is going to get people from the business side, is going to get people from evaluators from the technology side, is they are going to get people from the daily execution side or the operations side, and decide it. Who are the key influencers, and who are going to be the decision makers? What are their likely selection or the order winning criteria? And even what are their personal aims with regard to this project? Like, who wants this project to happen? At the same time, there will be people within the organization who feel that this project may not be actually needed, or this project, if it happens, they may have to change their ways or the way they work. So you need to understand there will be inherent politics, and there is always a politics within your customers organization whenever there is a new initiative or a larger initiative. Some people will be for it, some people will be against it, and whether they are a part of the evaluation team and how are they going to influence the evaluation is also something which you need to know. And most important and critical is to know, where does the balance of the power lie? Does it lie within the technical staff and their team, or it lies in the procurement, or it lies in the management? Who is going to take the final call? Who is going to sign the check or the sign between the on the dotted lines? Now this, with this questions in mind, you actually need to ask certain, if you have to get these criteria or answers to this, you need to actually ask some critical questions, and these critical questions will actually drive your entire proposal strategy. So basically what you need to understand or you need to ask is, what is the expectation of the customer? What is the expectation in terms of which is beyond the stated requirements in the RFP? You need to understand that. You need to ask these questions. You need to ask, what does the individual in the team wants to achieve from this initiative, because that is what is going to drive them. And you need to imagine also that at the end of the project, where do they exactly want to see, and what would they call as a success, and how would they claim their success? Because end of the day, it is there a proposal, a project executed by the customer is a success for the customer's team also. It is not only about you that you have delivered a project successfully, it is also about the customer, that they have implemented a new system, they have met the business objectives, or they have brought in a change within their organization. Now what is that is going to make them successful? Now unless you have an answer for these questions, you will not be able to actually point to what exactly is the how exactly is the customer going to evaluate you. And once you have answers to this, you will have a very clear strategy, or you will have a very clear thought in your mind about how you want to address them in your proposal. So that is about understanding the customer. Now you also need to understand about your capability. Now to understand your capability, you have to, let us move to the next slide. To understand your capability and positioning your capability, you have to understand the customer's key requirements. Now these key requirements are those requirements which the customer has stated very clearly in his RFP document. Now, when this RFP document comes to you, you will see that the customer has got stated some requirements. You need to list those key customer requirements, and you need to list those key requirements in order of their relevance, or in order of their importance to the customer. What are the must have? What are the should have? What are the good to have? Or what are maybe nice to have, or maybe if they have, then they are good. If they don't, obviously they are not going to make the impact. But you need to first list out the customer's key requirements, and that too in the order of their importance, because that is how you will be aligning your capability with the customer. You also need to identify which of the key areas you can do better than your competition, because those are the key areas which will actually become your discriminators, which will become your differentiators from your competition. So you need to not only see how you fare in the requirements, in delivering those requirements, but also you have to map yourself against the competition and see which are the areas you can do better than the competition. And you also need to identify the areas of problems and the area how you will address them. That is, these are the areas of the requirements where you are going to have face problems, where you see you will have to have problems. Now you will need to address them. You these are this can be problems because of shortcomings in your solution, because of you're not having that capability within your organization. But what strategy can you have? For example, the customer may ask for a specific set of services which you as an organization do not deliver, but they are a set of key services you require. Now that can help you in strategizing that. Can you go out and partner with somebody who specializes in that, so in those services, or who can provide it? That you can team up with someone. It can be a internal reorganization of your entire way of doing the things also, in which the customer requires that a particular functionality or a particular module or a feature has to delivered within a specific time, or within a very short time cycle, but the later stretch of the proposal project can be at a longer stage. So you may have to change your resource deployment or your way of doing. Instead of making it a flat resource deployment, you can make it a top heavy and then stretched out resource loading in that requirement. So there can be different areas of things, and you need to identify which are the key areas of the problems and how you will address them. And all these are related to your capability, because it is based on this solutions capability, your organization's capability, your solutions capability, your delivery capability, that you will be which you will be positioning and preparing in your proposal. So that's about the capability. Let us look into the third section, see, that is the competition. Now competition is something which you have to fight within the system. So to fight the competition, you need to identify what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses of the competition. And not only about yourself, this has to be done for the competition. And the most commonly used technique is the SWOT analysis, in which you compare the strengths, weakness, opportunities and threats, not only about yourself but also about the competitor. And based on that, you strategize on how you will be addressing, or how you will be meeting, how you will be beating the competition. And the best way of doing it is preparing the bidders comparison matrix. We had seen the bidders comparison matrix while doing the proposal qualification. It's the same bidders qualification matrix which you can extend or populate, and then compare each feature, compare how you map against the competition. The next thing you need to do is to identify your discriminators. As I said, that those features in which you are better than your competitor, you are the best in that, in those meeting those requirements or those features, they are going to become your discriminators. So against your competition, you have to find your discriminators. Now discriminators are those features which are in which you are better than your competitor, and those features are required by the customer. It may not be that you are better than the customer in many ways, your competitor in many ways, but they don't mean anything to the customer. So the features which are meaningful to the customer and for which you are better than your competitor, those only can become your discriminators. So you have to identify your discriminators, which you can do from your bidders comparison matrix. You have to identify your competitors weakness, again from your bidders comparison matrix. You can find out which are the areas in which the competition is weak, and then you can ghost that out. Ghosting is a technique we will see when we come into developing the win themes and the proposal in the proposal development phase. But it is a technique in which, without naming the competitor, you put a fear in the mind of the evaluator or the customer, that this is something which we are good at and others are not good at, and if you do not consider this, these are the risks which will come into play, and these are the losses, or these are the things which may happen. So you are like showing a ghost to the invisible ghost to the customer. So that is what we call is the ghosting. And most importantly, you have to help your customer to choose you over your competition. So you have to help the customer in determining why they should choose you above your competition. And that is basically giving a reason to them, because remember, the evaluators also are answerable. The evaluators also have to go to their management and give them a reason why they have selected you, and your proposal should give them ample of that reason. Because a evaluator is not, it's not a personal purchase or a personal procurement. They are accountable, and since they are accountable, they have to have a reason of why they are choosing you, and your proposal should give them that reason. And delivering and making that reason as a part of your proposal strategy is going to help you to highlight that, so that when the evaluators make a decision in your favor, they can convince, or they can give a reason, logical reason to their management, to their bosses, on why they make a selection about you. There's a very good example of which IBM used to use in many years before. I don't think they use it anymore. Is like, nobody loses his job for selecting IBM. IBM was the most costliest selling proposition, but then they used to give the reason that because we are so reliable, and nobody and we are so we are so reliable that nobody, even if we are costly, nobody loses his job because they have selected us. So that's sort of a that's a sort of a reasoning which you are providing to the customer to select you. So that's about beating the competition. Now, if we see, by looking at the customer, by looking at the capability and looking at the competition, we have got enough detail. If we can look at these three independently and think and strategize and think, we will have got lot of information with us. Now, using that information, we actually now need to pull out our strategy. And one of the key things which we need to bring out in our strategy is basically the issues, motivators, and the hot buttons. Now, these are the tactical things, these are the things which are mostly the customer will be requiring or needing and asking for within his RFP. Now, what are the issues? Now, issues are basically those requirements or those factors within the organization which is keeping the customer awake, which is keeping the project manager, the prospects, the users awake in the night. They are thinking about it. They are thinking of different ways of resolving that. Now, what is that is something which we need to find out. Motivators are basically those issues basically which will help them in making a decision in your favor. What is going to help them to make a decision in your favor? Now, motivators can be issues, but all issues may not be actually motivators. Now, motivators basically actually come from the reason and are logical, that I need to do this because I have this problem. I need to control my costs because I have to improve my profits. I need to control my costs because I have to be competitive in the market. Now, something I need to do, but something which is burning me is my issue, but something which I need to do is my motivation. And hot buttons are something which the customer actually is which is basically nothing but a consolidated set of issues and motivators. Now, this is something which the customer keeps on repeating within the RFP. It will always say improve the performance efficiency of our shop, of our use of our business users, improve the cost, spend, improve the spend, or have a visibility of spend within the organization. Now these are the hot buttons which the customer is needs to have a solution. So your features, your solution features actually need to address them. So you need to very clearly come out with your issues. You have to very clearly come out with, identify the motivators, and you have to clearly identify your hot buttons, because only when you have these things in place, you will be actually able to address them in your proposal. Or else in your proposal, your proposal will be mostly stating that yes, there is a requirement, yes, I will meet this requirement, or this is how I will meet that requirement. But it is not about only meeting that requirement in a house, in a statement. Basically you have to always state that why you think that is the right way to do that. So the issues and the motivators and the hot buttons are something which you need to identify to come with your proposal strategy. The next is the features, advantage and benefits. Now that you have the issues, motivators and the hot buttons, now you have to align your solutions features, advantages and benefits, demonstrating your capability, and also beating the customer in your proposal, to beating the competitor in front to your customer. Now what are the features of your solution which are relevant to the customer? Your solution may have multiple features, but what are the features which are the most relevant to the customer? Definitely the way you mapped the issues, you have to map your features. So you will map your features in the priority of the issues which you have identified for the customer. So these are the features of my solution which actually will address your issues. So you have to identify the features in relevance to the customer, and you have to explicitly state the advantages of your solution. Advantages of your solution is not the feature of your solution. People generally confuse between the feature and the advantage. A feature is meeting a requirement. A advantage is the positive outcome of meeting that requirement. Above meeting the requirement is a mandatory thing, but above meeting the requirement, what is the additional benefit or the additional outcome, positive outcome you are getting, that is your advantage. So you have to explicitly state your advantages to the customer, and then you have to also convert your advantages into the benefits, like linking the advantages to the customer's core business initial objectives. That is, I am giving you this advantage which will actually translate into this benefit for you, and this is actually what you are looking for. Now converting that advantages, because your solution may have all the advantages of the of having a solution, what you are proposing, but is it delivering a business benefit to the customer, which is most relevant? Because the customer is not interested in the advantages of a solution unless they are providing him a benefit, and that benefit needs to be explicitly stated to the customer, and that can be done by converting your advantages into benefits, and then connect the features of the solution with the benefits. So directly mapping all the features, that is, everything that you are providing with your solution actually has delivers a benefit to the customer. So a one-to-one mapping of the feature to the benefit to the customer. Now here there is another catch which we generally see in IT solutions or IT solutions, and mostly when there's the IT solution is a custom application development, and that is that the customer states a functional requirement, and we state that we will meet the functional requirement by doing that. Now that is not a feature. You are only complying to that requirement, or you are only making a statement that you will develop something, or your application will have that that will have that functionality. The feature has to be something beyond the functionality. Okay, because ultimately it is the customer is not buying the features, the customer is not buying the advantages of your solution, or not buying the customer is going to buy the benefits of your solution. So you have to connect your benefits to every feature of your solution. If a feature does not demonstrate a benefit to the customer, that feature is useless, and you may not actually harp in that feature in your solution. Emphasize the benefits over the features. Generally, we write about all we know about our product, all we know about our solution, all we know, but they are only features of the solution. They are not the benefits of the solution. In an ideal proposal, a persuasive proposal in which the benefits take over the features, the cost in which you deliver the benefits and you show that these benefits will be delivered to you because our solution has got these features. So you need to emphasize the benefits over the features. And the best proposals are those in which you can quantify the benefits, because ultimately when you quantify the benefit, the customer feels that yes, this is something which I want to achieve, want gets a tangible result in his hand, not just a mere commitment or a mere compliance to what he is looking for. He is asking for something and you say yes, I will do it, but not that what I yes, of course I will do it, and not only I will do it, but I will deliver you this value. I will deliver you a cost reduction of 5% or 15%. I will deliver you a growth of 10% or 30%. A quantifiable value is what the customer obviously looks more attracts the customer, or makes the customer more trust makes the customer trust you. And if you have delivered that to your previous customers, definitely that is more, the proof points of that are more advantageous for you. So that is how you identify the features, advantages, and the benefits. And now finally you develop your winning strategy. Now all these what you have done, identifying the customer, identify assessing your sales situation, identifying the customer, the evaluation criteria of the customer, the competition, the issues, and the issues, the hot buttons, the motivators of the customer, the features, advantages, and benefits of your solution. Each of these together are going to be the inputs for your strategy. Now, while developing your strategy, you have to also understand that you are not developing a solution only for one user or one segment of user within the organization. Or the decision of awarding you the contract does not come from one single user group within the organization. There are going to be different buyer segments, and each of these buyer segments will have their issues. There are different ways in which you can differentiate, you can identify these buyer segments. These buyer segments can be the business users who will be using the application. This buyer segment can be the economic buyers, those who are putting their money, those who are going to sign the check for this project. This by this system will be managed or operated or maintained by a set of users, the technical users who will be implementing it or managing it, the operation. They are a segment of users within the system, and they all have a stake in the solution which you are proposing. So you need to see that you address all these buyer segments, and each of these segments will have their own issues, and your solution has to address each of these issues. So when you develop your solution has to be not only be aligned to only the customer issues and requirements, they have to be aligned to the buyer segments also. Now you need to prepare your value proposition for each type of buyer. So like you have a economic buyer as well as a business user, you have to have different value propositions for each of this segment. You cannot have one generic set of value proposition uh, and sell it to everyone. So for the economic buyer, it may be a cost effective solution. It may be it may be a low cost maintenance solution. It may, for the business user, it may be a highly configurable solution. So different ways, different value propositions have to be crafted out, and each value proposition, and the value proposition should be unique for every user segment, and not one generic value proposition or set of generic value proposition. Typically we see proposals going out with uh, a generic set of value propositions. Our solution has got this feature, our solution, we propose this value or this something. That actually does not impress the customer. The customers gets impressed, or the user groups within the customers get impressed only when they see a value proposition specific to their needs and their requirements. Draft your what and how statements even before you write your proposal. This is something which you need to do, is basically what does the customer need and how are you going to deliver. So each, what are the customer issues, how are you going to manage them, what are the customers expectations, how are you going to deliver them. So you need to answer your draft proposal actually should be nothing but a what and how statement. So what does the customer want, how am I going to do that. On that becomes your draft or proposal outline, and based on that you should actually write your proposal content. Use trade-offs. Now trade-offs are something which basically you may use in your proposal to show something, not highlighting something, rather you suppress something and then tell them that okay, this is something which I am not going to bring out in my proposal. So basically you have you try to show them that I have not come to this solution just because I have this solution. I have considered three other solutions and I have decided that this is the solution which best fits you. I have decided on in delivering you this solution using this particular approach or this particular methodology, not just because I practice it, but because I evaluated this methodology and I feel that this fits most against best against you. Now that is basically that you have not taken a decision just in a random way, or just because that is something what you do. Rather you have put the customer's interest first and decided on which is the best solution for the customer. So basically trade-offs show that you have considered alternatives and you have selected the best solution for the prospect. So instead of just selecting the first item which is available to you, you show that no, you have done a considerable research, you have a good fair understanding of the customer's requirements, and based on that you have decided on this, and that gives a trust to the customer and a confidence to the customers. So use your trade-offs. And also you can use ghosting over here. That this is a technique which is used to against the competition. That competition may have a feature or a solution, or a methodology or an approach, but you can always ghost that and say that we considered that approach or this approach, but we found that there are these risks in this approach which will have this impact on you, and that is the way we have rejected that approach and we are proposing you this new approach. Now in this way what you have done is you have actually killed the customer or the competitors proposition which they would have which would have proposed. You have put some critical questions in the mind of the customer when they will read the competitors proposal and see that okay, these guys are proposing this, but the other guys this company other company said that using this methodology may have involved these sort of risks, or using a open source product may actually have these sort of challenges. So you have actually tried to ghost your competition. And finally when you have all these things done, you document your strategy, you create your proposal strategy document, which is nothing but all the listed out issues, and how, which are basically the nothing but the what and how, because from all what you have done you will get what the customer wants from you and how you are addressing them. So your what and how statements actually become your proposal strategy document, and that will actually guide you in your proposal development. Now that is what, how you actually work in a proposal while you do the proposal strategy. Now, the proposal strategy competence area is related to several best practices. It is related to strategy, which is one of the best practices in the APMP proposal guide. It is related to persuasive writing, which is one of the best practices given, and it is also related to features, features and advantages. So you can read those features, advantages, and benefits. So you can read those sections or those best practices from the APMP guide, and they will be all mapped to the proposal strategy. The types of questions which you get from the proposal strategy, you can see the sample questions I have put in. So it asks like, which of the is a known technique for analyzing your capability against the competition? Now definitely it is the SWOT analysis, by which you not only uh, evaluate your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, but you also do it for your competition, and from that you know that how would you pitch against the competition. Then you have that, like, what is a discriminator? Now discriminator is not a feature which or differentiates your solution from your competitor, but a discriminator is something which not only differentiates your solution from the customer your competitor, but also is a key feature needed by the customer, because if it is not needed by the customer, it does not mean anything to the customer, so it is not a discriminator. Likewise, you can see the other questions. Define a win strategy, and in which are the situations in which you will call it a no bid. As I said that in a proposal strategy phase also, you can come to a situation where you will see that this proposal, it is not worth bidding for this opportunity because you do not have any chance of winning, so you can also have a no bid at this stage also. And also, like, what is the, how can you intend what select the option that supports an intention of maximizing the added value. Now what is the value, like how, what is the, how does the customer perceive the value which you are proposing? Now it is reducing the cost, or it is maximizing the value of the benefits, or is it maximizing the difference between the value of benefits and the cost, or it is reducing the risk and the and bidding within the budget. These are the types of questions which you will get from the proposal strategy perspective. So let us take the questions which have come up. I think we have come up with some questions here, and you can unmute yourself at this moment, and we can have a discussion around it. So let me take the questions first. Prasad, you are asking that I did not see the proposal process cycle within the steps within the APMP proposal guide. Is there any slide or material where the proposal cycle is described? N- Actually, we need to. I need to make it very clear here, Prasad, that the APMP best practices guide does not give you a framework or a process that this is step one, this is step two, this is step three. That actually is a part of, because proposal development and bid management is a part of the larger cycle of business development life cycle. So if you see our first webinar presentation, in that we have given that there are different phases of the business development, and in that business development there is a proposal development life cycle. But there is no framework or a process cycle within the proposal development. What APMP says is that you need to follow these business cycles, but there is no sequence of this. You can customize it as per your organization structure or as per your organization's practice. I hope that I answer you, Prasad, or if you have any questions, you can just ask me.
No, no, thanks. I got that.
Okay, okay, okay. The next question you have is the during the proposal activities, the potential customer might not provide too much info about the organization or their business problems. Under such circumstances, how do we address the customer? Very right and very pertinent question, Prasad. The point is that APMP says the best practice of APMP says that if you are responding to an RFP after the RFP has been published and you are not connected with the customer before that, then it is better to go and invest in a lottery ticket rather than responding. Okay, so that is the reason in the business development life cycle there is a phase which is a very important phase called the capture phase, and it is during this capture phase where the business development and the organization gets involved with the customer, not only to identify the requirements but also to make a draft RFP. And this is actually the phase where you actually get the answer of the business problems, of the expected solutions and all these things. Now that is exactly where you actually get it. Obviously after the RFP is published, as a part of the procurement norms, the customer is not supposed to share any other information. So unless you are connected to the customer before the RFP and you have the solutions, it actually doesn't make sense for you to for the organization to go and bid for the RFP. So does that
Okay.
answer
Okay.
your question, Prasad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions, Arpit or others? So this is about the proposal strategy. In our next session, we will look at the proposal development, and obviously the inputs from the proposal strategy, they will go into the proposal development. And then we will see how the proposal we develop the do the proposal development. We may have to stretch into 1 or 2 sessions. 2 sessions, we cannot cover entire proposal development in one session, so we may have to stretch in 1 or 2 sessions. And hopefully I should be able to do that in next 2 weeks, because I do not have any travel planned as of now between these 2 weeks. So we should be able to cover proposal development, and within this month I think we should be able to cover at least the three or four key competency areas, and the remaining competency areas in July. So as per our plan, we can cover all the 5 6 competency areas by the end of July, so that those who, all those who are planning, they can get for the foundation level examination, they can go in for the foundation level examination in August. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here, and I will announce the next webinar details in the next within this week itself, and hopefully we will try to keep it on Saturday or on a Sunday. And thank you all for being here. Thank you.